I got here on my 27th birthday. I got the Fonz on my 27th birthday. I got it 2 weeks. I got the character 2 weeks after I landed terra firma American Airlines at 2:45 in the afternoon. And I was 27, and I got Barry when I was 72. He just flipped the numbers. It's amazing.
And didn't Garry Marshall look for somebody completely not like you?
He was looking for somebody over 6 feet. He was looking for an Italian, and he got a short Jew.
I had heard also Mickey Dolenz was in
Mickey Dolenz was in the room. When I walked in, you know this, they call it the green room. It is where the actors wait to go on stage, or the actors wait to meet the producers and the directors to audition. I don't know why it's called green, because it's never green. But the tradition is that it's called the green room. And when I walked in, every actor sitting there was famous. They were on television. And then there was me. And I walked in, and a week later, on my birthday, October 30th, 1973, Tom Miller called me on the phone and said, "Would you like to play this role?"
Wow. And Garry Marshall just said, "Yeah, you were right. We were thinking, yeah."
Yeah. Garry was my mentor. Rest his soul. Garry is one of the greatest men I have ever met in my life. When I would go to visit him at his office, which was in the Falcon Theater, which is still there on Riverside, doing children's theater and theater, I would go to have lunch with him, and there would be a line of people waiting to get his counsel, waiting for a moment with, it's like going to the mountain. I'm not kidding. The most extraordinary man.
But you can do things on Barry that you could never do on Happy Days. So tell us something that you almost did on Happy Days, but ABC said absolutely not, and now you laugh about it.
There was an entire department at the networks at one time that was practices and standards and practices. And I'm telling you, she looked like John McCain's wife. You know? That hair didn't move. You can't say that. That's out of the question. But couldn't we just, I mean, it really, and now, of course, those departments were sent home because they're competing with cable.
But there was even an issue, I think, with your leather jacket, wasn't there?
I was not allowed to wear leather because they thought I would be associated with crime. And I've said this before, but can I just say, I wore a McGregor golf jacket of no discernible color, and it's very hard to be cool in cloth. And so Garry Marshall went to ABC, and he said, "You know, if the Fonz rode his bike, he could be hurt." And so...
Perfect.
And so they said, okay, he can wear leather as long as he's with his bike. Garry Marshall, there were not really cell phones at that time, went to the lobby of ABC, which was in the building where CAA is now in Century City on the Avenue of the Stars. And he went to the lobby, he called the writer's room, and he said, never write another scene without his bike. And that's why you see me wheeling it into Arnold's. I've taken it apart in my apartment, and here it is. Jews don't ride motorcycles. So I learned to sit on it, but I never actually I rode it for 17 seconds in the opening credits. The first time they put me on it, all I had to do was the throttle and go 5 feet. It shot. I nearly killed the director of photography. He jumped out of the way. The bike went down. We slid under a truck. And everybody ran and said, "Is the bike okay?"
I'm a child of TV, so I saw every episode of Happy Days.
Thank you.
I saw every episode of Murder, She Wrote more than once.
Yes.
I mean, I've watched a lot of TV in my life, including the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Yes.
And there's one episode that's a classic. It was called The Dinner Party. I would call it Dinner for One, because there you sat at a little table all by yourself as Rhoda's date.
My first job in Hollywood. So I land, and 1 week later, Joan Scott. Now, she's my agent in New York, but she has now opened an office in LA. John Kimball has taken over her office in New York. He said, if you want to be known to New York, stay here. If you want to be known to the world, go to California. I thought, oof. So I was doing commercials. And I had $1,000, and I came here for 1 month. I had enough money for 1 month. And when I walked into Joan's office, she said, well, I don't know, it's going to be awfully hard to sell you. I don't know what to do. I thought, this is a $1,000, 3,000-mile mistake. I go on my first audition at Radford Studios in the Valley, and audition. The producer said, you know, we don't have a script, but you're sitting at a table, and I hear you say, please pass the salt. So I'm sitting there, and as time goes on, I'm telling him about what I've done, Yale and everything, and I turned over a glass of pencils. I picked up one pencil, and I clanged it while I was talking to him, and I said, excuse me, don't go out of your way. When you have a moment, would you pass the salt? And then I went back to talking to him, and by the time I got back to the Sunset Marquis, the motel.
Westwood?
In Hollywood, West Hollywood. Oh. It's called something else now. When I got back to the couch that I was sleeping on in the room of Charlie Haid, who was on Hill Street Blues, I got the job.
I like that.